Well, for more on this, let's cross over to Washington, where we can speak to Phyllis Bennis, director of the new Internationalism Project at the Institute for Policy Studies and author of Understanding the Palestinian-Israeli Conflict. Now, with President Obama reiterating American support for Israel's right to defend itself, is he effectively approving Israel's call-up of reservists?
Absolutely. There's no question that right now Israel is counting on the absolute uncritical support of the United States that starts with the $4.1 billion in military aid that the U.S. has provided this year, that continues to these statements of support for what the U.S. is calling Israel's right to self-defense, despite the fact that even Israelis are calling it an offensive. And then it can be anticipated that the U.S. will work at the United Nations to prevent any serious action towards an immediate ceasefire, which is the first thing needed.
Is that a dangerous position to be in, given the whole change of the dynamic in that region following the Arab Spring?
Absolutely. This is the one thing that's very different than 4 years ago when Israel launched Operation Cast Lead. It was similar in timing. It was right after the election in 2008. The election then again of President Obama, before the inauguration of President Obama, and with a short time period before Israel's own elections. We now have Prime Minister Netanyahu facing elections in January. But what's different, as you say, is that the entire regional context has changed. The U.S. and Israel can no longer count on a U.S.-backed dictator in Egypt that is prepared to support the United States, defend Israel, despite massive popular opposition to that position. The government in Gaza is, the government in Jordan right now on Israel's other border is teetering. The Arab Spring has hit Jordan in recent days. And the fact that the Israeli president asked his prime minister to go to Gaza, recognizing and supporting Hamas, expelled the Israeli ambassador, called for an urgent meeting of the Arab League. This is a very different kind of response, and the U.S. is absolutely going to need an interlocutor in the region, and it's going to have to be Egypt. It may well be Turkey. Those two countries right now have far better relations with the government in Gaza, the Hamas-led government, than they do with Washington. So this is a very different regional and global scenario.
Well, Turkey is now supporting what Egypt is saying. Realistically and briefly, is there a diplomatic solution to this?
There's going to have to be. We need an immediate ceasefire, but there's going to have to be a diplomatic solution that looks at the long and medium-term issue, which is what's the origin of this escalation? It's about occupation. Even without the settlers and soldiers being inside Gaza, the fact that Israel controls all of Gaza, controls the borders, controls the sky, controls the sea, that makes Israel still the occupying power, and it means that that's what has to be dealt with if we're going to be serious about stopping this kind of violence.
OK, Phyllis Bennis from the Institute for Policy Studies. We have to leave it there. Thanks very much.